Money has a way of turning family into strangers. I learned this the hard way when my mother-in-law called about the mysterious $150,000 she'd supposedly been saving for our business. Vanessa, darling, I've been waiting for the perfect moment to tell you. Margaret's voice dripped with sugary excitement through my car's speakers. You and Daniel have worked so hard with the jewelry line. I wanted to help. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles whitening. 2 weeks at an artist retreat in Sedona should have left me refreshed. Instead, my stomach churned with an instinct I couldn't quite name. I'm sorry, what money are we talking about exactly? The savings account, dear. I've been putting aside a little here and there for the business expansion you're always talking about. The traffic light turned green, but I sat frozen. In 7 years of marriage to Daniel, Margaret had never once offered financial support. She'd criticized, questioned, and doubted every business decision we'd made. Now this? That's unexpected, I managed, earning angry honks from the cars behind me. I pressed the gas, my mind racing. When did you start the savings account? Oh, you know me, always planning ahead. Her laugh tinkled like broken glass. I thought with the new collection launch coming up, this would be perfect timing. We should meet for lunch tomorrow. There's paperwork to discuss. Paperwork. Of course there was paperwork. Actually, Margaret, I need to check our schedule with Daniel first. We've got several client meetings this week. The lie came easily. Daniel and I had cleared our calendar specifically for design work on the fall collection. Daniel already knows, sweetheart. We discussed it last week while you were away. My hands went numb. Daniel knew? My own husband hadn't mentioned a word about this supposed windfall during our nightly calls. I'll have to call you back, I said, pulling into our driveway. I'm just getting home. Perfect timing then. Daniel should be there to explain everything. Love you, darling. I ended the call and sat in the car, staring at our craftsman-style house. The home we'd scraped and saved for, the one Margaret had called quaint with that particular tone that made it sound like an insult. Through the front window, I could see Daniel moving around in the kitchen, my husband of 7 years, the man who'd left his corporate marketing job to help build our jewelry business. The person I trusted most in the world, who apparently kept six-figure secrets. I grabbed my luggage from the trunk, not bothering with the smaller bags. The front door was unlocked, Daniel's bad habit that drove me crazy. Inside, the house smelled like garlic and rosemary. He was making my favorite chicken piccata. "Welcome home!" Daniel called out, wiping his hands on a dish towel as he came to greet me. His smile faltered when he saw my expression. "What's wrong?" "Your mother called." I watched his face carefully. "Something about $150,000 she's been saving for us?" Daniel's shoulders tensed. He ran a hand through his dark hair, his tell when he's nervous. "I was going to tell you tonight. Over dinner. I wanted to explain properly." "Explain what? That your mother, who's never supported our business, suddenly has a small fortune earmarked for us? That you knew about this while I was away and didn't say a word? It's complicated, Van." He reached for me, but I stepped back. "Mom's been—" My phone buzzed. A text from Rachel, my best friend. "Emergency at the studio. Client threatening to pull entire order. Need you ASAP." I looked at Daniel, who was still struggling to find words. "I have to go to the studio, but this conversation isn't over. Van, please, let me explain." "Later." I turned toward the door, then paused. "One question. Did you actually check the account? See the money yourself?" His silence was answer enough. "That's what I thought." I walked out, leaving him standing in our kitchen with his perfect dinner plans in ruins. As I drove to the studio, Margaret's voice echoed in my head. "Always planning ahead," she'd said. But planning what exactly? And why now? I had a feeling I wasn't going to like the answers. The studio lights cast harsh shadows across Rachel's face as she showed me the email from our biggest client. "They're claiming half the pieces in the spring collection are derivative. Can you believe this bullshit?" I massaged my temples, the tension from my earlier confrontation with Daniel morphing into a full-blown migraine. Derivative of what? Ethan Collins's latest line. Rachel's mouth twisted into a grimace. They attached comparison photos. My stomach dropped as I looked at the images. The similarities were there, subtle enough to be coincidental, but just close enough to raise questions. Questions I couldn't afford right now, not with Margaret's mysterious money hanging over my head. "This is impossible," I said, zooming in on the details. "I designed these pieces months ago. Colin's collection just launched last week." "Exactly." Rachel leaned against my workbench. "So, either great minds think alike, or someone leaked our designs." The words tasted bitter. I thought of Daniel, of his recent late nights at the office, of conversations that stopped when I entered the room. No, I couldn't let paranoia poison everything. My phone buzzed again. Margaret, third time in an hour. I declined the call. "Trouble in paradise?" Rachel asked. "Margaret claims she's been secretly saving money for our business. $150,000 worth of secret savings." Rachel's eyebrows shot up. "The same Margaret who told you at Christmas that costume jewelry was beneath the family name?" "The very same." I pulled up our business accounts on my laptop. "Daniel knew about it and didn't tell me. Says he wants to explain properly. And you're here instead of hearing that explanation because every time Margaret gets involved in our business, something goes wrong." I started cross-referencing our recent transactions. "Remember the investment opportunity she brought us last year? The one that turned out to be her friend's pyramid scheme?" My phone lit up with a text from Daniel. "Mom's coming over for dinner. Says she has the paperwork. Please come home." Shit. I grabbed my bag. "Margaret's ambushing us with dinner." Rachel caught my arm. "Wait, before you go, there's something else." She hesitated, which wasn't like her. "I saw Daniel having lunch with Ethan Collins last week. They looked friendly." The room tilted slightly. "What?" "It was probably nothing. Business lunch, maybe. I didn't want to worry you while you were at your retreat, but with these design similarities..." Another text from Daniel. "Where are you? Mom's here." "I have to go." I headed for the door, then turned back. "Rachel, thank you for telling me." The drive home felt surreal. Daniel and Ethan Collins. The similar designs. Margaret's sudden generosity. My mind kept trying to connect dots that shouldn't exist. I pulled into our driveway behind Margaret's Mercedes. Through the window, I could see them in the dining room. Daniel setting the table, Margaret arranging papers with the precise attention she usually reserved for criticizing my life choices. My phone buzzed one last time. An email from our client. "Final notice. Resolve design similarity issues within 48 hours or order canceled." I took a deep breath and walked inside. The smell of chicken piccata had been replaced by Margaret's signature roast beef. A power move, if I'd ever seen one. "Darling!" Margaret swooped in for an air kiss. "I brought the bank statements. Everything's ready for the transfer." "Transfer?" I looked at Daniel, who wouldn't meet my eyes. "Well, of course." Margaret's smile didn't reach her eyes. "The money comes with certain conditions, reasonable ones. About business direction, creative control." Creative control? The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Is that why Daniel's been meeting with Ethan Collins? The silence that followed was deafening. Margaret's smile flickered. Daniel's head snapped up. "How did you—" "You know what? Never mind." I pulled out my phone and forwarded the client's email to both of them. "Maybe you can explain this instead." Daniel read the email, his face draining of color. "Van, I can explain." "Can you? Because right now, it looks like you sold our designs to our biggest competitor while your mother prepared to buy creative control of our company." My voice stayed steady, even as my world cracked apart. "Tell me I'm wrong." The look that passed between them told me everything I needed to know. "I'll be at Rachel's," I said, turning to leave. "Don't wait up." "Vanessa," Margaret called after me, "don't be dramatic. This is business. Sometimes we have to make hard choices for the greater good of the family." I paused at the door. "You're right, Margaret. Sometimes we do." And I knew, with absolute certainty, what my choice would be. Rachel's guest room felt like a sanctuary at 3 a.m. I couldn't sleep, so I did what any self-respecting business owner would do. I hacked into my husband's email. The password hadn't changed since our wedding day. Daniel always was predictable, except when he wasn't. You should eat something, Rachel said from the doorway, holding 2 mugs of tea. Revenge plotting works better on a full stomach. I'm not plotting revenge. I scrolled through Daniel's sent folder. I'm gathering evidence. Same thing. The emails started 3 months ago. Short messages between Daniel and Ethan Collins, innocent enough at first. Business lunch invitations, industry gossip. Then the tone shifted. Found something? Rachel peered over my shoulder. Collins offered Daniel a partnership. My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. Contingent on bringing over our client list and design portfolio. That son of a... Wait! I opened another email thread. There's more. Margaret's been CC'd on some of these. The next hour revealed a pattern that made my hands shake. Margaret hadn't been saving money for our business. She'd been orchestrating its dismantling. The savings were actually funds she'd borrowed against her house, meant to cushion Daniel's transition to Collins' company after our inevitable bankruptcy. My phone buzzed. Daniel again. Please come home, we can fix this. I turned the phone face down. I need to go to the office. At 3 a.m.? Rachel raised an eyebrow. The security system backs up everything at 4. If they've been tampering with our accounts? I'm driving. Rachel grabbed her keys. You're shaking too much. The office was dark when we arrived, but a light burned in the conference room. Through the glass walls, I saw Margaret bent over our filing cabinet. You have got to be kidding me, Rachel whispered. I pushed open the door, Margaret startled, clutching a handful of documents to her chest. Vanessa, I was just what? Destroying evidence? Evidence? She laughed, but her eyes darted to the exit. Don't be dramatic. I'm helping Daniel organize the quarterly reports. At 3 in the morning? I moved closer, noting how she angled the papers away from me. The same reports that would show unauthorized transfers to Ethan Collins? Her smile faltered. I don't know what you're talking about. I read the emails, Margaret, all of them, including the ones about how you mortgaged your house to fund Daniel's betrayal. It wasn't betrayal. Her voice hardened. It was survival. This little jewelry venture of yours was never going to last. I was protecting my son. By selling our designs to our competitor? By orchestrating our bankruptcy? By securing his future. She slammed the papers down. You've filled his head with these artistic dreams, but Daniel needs stability, structure. Collins can give him that. And I suppose the fact that this would destroy me was just a bonus? Margaret's smile returned, razor sharp. You were never good enough for him, for this family. Everything you touch turns common. I reached for the papers. She snatched them back, tearing several in the process. As they scattered, I caught glimpses of bank statements, transfer records, emails printed and highlighted. It's too late anyway, Margaret said. By Monday, Collins will announce his new collection, your collection. The clients will jump ship. Daniel will have no choice but to accept Collins' offer. And you? Her laugh was pure venom. You'll be right back where you started. Nothing. The security camera in the corner blinked its red light, recording everything. You're right about one thing, I said quietly. By Monday, everything will change. Is that a threat? No, Margaret, it's a promise. I pulled out my phone and pressed stop on the recording app. By the way, thank you for that lovely confession. I'm sure the police will find it very interesting. The color drained from her face. You wouldn't dare. It would destroy Daniel's career. You already did that. I headed for the door, then turned back. Oh, and Margaret? I may be common, but at least I'm not a criminal. Rachel was waiting in the hallway, her own phone recording through the glass. Got it all. Good. I felt oddly calm. Call our lawyer, then call Collins' biggest competitors. I think they'd be very interested in hearing about his business practices. What about Daniel? I thought about our wedding day, when I'd promised to love and trust him forever. Daniel made his choice. Now I'm making mine. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just about getting even. It's about making sure they never forget who they underestimated. The lawyer's office felt too warm, despite the October chill outside. I stared at the documents spread across his mahogany desk, each page another nail in the coffin of my marriage. These transfers date back 18 months, Martin said, tapping a highlighted column. Well before Collins entered the picture. My wedding ring caught the afternoon light. I twisted it once, twice, then slipped it off entirely. Show me. The numbers told a story I hadn't wanted to read. Small amounts at first, barely noticeable, then larger sums, always on the 15th of each month. Not to Collins, but to an offshore account I'd never seen before. There's more, Martin said, sliding another folder forward. Your mother-in-law's mortgage documents. What about them? They're forgeries. Good ones, but forgeries nonetheless. The bank confirmed this morning. Margaret Turner's house has been paid off for years. The ring felt heavy in my palm. So the loan was a lie. Everything was a lie. Rachel's voice from the doorway made me jump. She held up her tablet. Collins just announced his new creative director. I didn't need to look. Daniel. The press release says he's been consulting with them for 2 years. 2 years, before the business expansion, before Margaret's supposed windfall, while I was still sketching designs in our bedroom, believing in our shared dream. My phone buzzed. Daniel again. This time I answered. Van, please. 2 years. My voice sounded foreign to my own ears. You've been working with Collins for 2 years. A pause. It's not what you think. Really? Because I'm looking at bank statements showing monthly transfers dating back 18 months. I'm looking at forged mortgage documents. I'm reading a press release announcing you as Collins' new creative director. Please, Daniel, tell me what I should think. I was protecting us. His voice cracked. The market was shifting. Independent designers are dying out. I saw an opportunity. To steal my designs? To bankrupt our company? To secure our future? Collins has resources we could never match. Distribution channels, manufacturing capabilities. Stop. I set the ring on Martin's desk. Just stop. You know what hurts the most? Not the betrayal. Not even the lies. It's that you really believe you were doing the right thing. Van, the police have the evidence of Margaret's forgeries. The DA is reviewing the case for fraud charges. Collins will be served with cease and desist orders for the stolen designs by morning. I took a breath. You should warn your mother. They'll probably question her first. You wouldn't dare. Margaret's voice in the background, shrill with panic. I'm family. No, I said quietly. You're criminals, and I'm done protecting either of you. I ended the call and looked at Martin. How quickly can you file for divorce? The papers are ready, but there's something else you should see first. He pulled up an email on his computer. This came from one of Collins' junior designers. Apparently, she has a conscience. The attached photos showed my original sketches. Not the final designs, but the rough drafts I'd drawn late at night. Ideas I'd never shown anyone except... Rachel? My throat closed up. These were in my private sketchbook, the one I keep at home. Rachel wouldn't meet my eyes. I can explain. You gave them my designs? You've been working with them too? Not exactly. She swallowed hard. I've been working with Margaret. She said if I helped her, she'd fund my own design studio. I never thought they'd actually steal. Get out. Van, please. Get out! The silence after she left felt like glass shards in my lungs. Martin cleared his throat. The good news is, this gives us leverage. With a whistleblower from inside Collins's organization and proof of corporate espionage, we can... File everything, I cut him off. The divorce papers, the fraud charges, the corporate espionage suit, all of it. It will get ugly. It's already ugly. I stood, leaving my wedding ring on his desk. They wanted to destroy everything I built? Fine. But I'm going to make sure they remember exactly who they tried to break. Outside, the October wind cut through my jacket. I walked to my car, each step feeling like a decision. The woman who'd walked into that office believing in family loyalty was gone. In her place stood someone who finally understood. Sometimes the only way to protect yourself is to burn every bridge behind you. The storage unit's metal door groaned open, revealing cardboard boxes stacked to the ceiling. Each one labeled in Daniel's precise handwriting: Design Archives 2021, Financial Records 2022, Client Contracts. 7 years of our life together, packed away like evidence. I hadn't planned to come here. But after 3 sleepless nights in a hotel room, I needed answers that wouldn't come from lawyers or bank statements. My phone buzzed. Ethan Collins. "Mrs. Turner?" His voice oozed confidence. "I think it's time we talked. I have nothing to say to you." "No? Not even about the offshore accounts Daniel opened in the Caymans? The ones Margaret's been using to funnel money through your company?" My hand froze halfway to the first box. "What do you want?" "To meet. Privately. There are things about your husband and mother-in-law that might interest you. Things that go beyond design theft." I thought about the forged mortgage documents, the mysterious transfers. When and where? "The Archer Hotel. 1 hour." The lobby of the Archer screamed old money, all marble and mahogany, just like Margaret's taste. Collins sat in a corner booth, looking exactly like his press photos. Expensive suit, practiced smile, predator's eyes. "Thank you for coming," he said, gesturing to the seat across from him. "Drink? Talk." He slid a folder across the table. "Your mother-in-law's been busy. These accounts? They're not just for hiding money, they're for laundering it." The documents showed wire transfers, shell companies, amounts that made my head spin, all flowing through our business accounts like poison through veins. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because Daniel's about to throw her under the bus." Collins leaned forward. "The DA's investigation? He's going to claim she acted alone, that he was just following her instructions. He's already approached my lawyers about turning state's evidence." My stomach lurched. "You're lying." "Am I?" He pulled out his phone, played a recording. Daniel's voice, discussing immunity deals with someone, planning to sacrifice his own mother to save himself. "What do you want from me?" "A partnership. Real one, not the sham Daniel offered. Your designs, my resources, we could dominate the market. While Margaret and Daniel go to prison?" He shrugged. "They made their choices. Question is, what choice will you make?" I stood up, my chair scraping against marble. "You really think I'd work with you, after everything?" "I think you're running out of options. The DA's investigation will destroy your company's reputation. Your designs are already compromised. Face it, Vanessa, you need me more than you need revenge." My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "Storage unit security footage shows unauthorized access. Police en route." Daniel. He must have been watching the unit. "Think about it," Collins called after me as I headed for the door. "My offer won't last forever." I drove back to the storage facility at exactly the speed limit, mind racing. The police would find the boxes, the evidence, everything I'd planned to use against them, unless... The unit was still open when I arrived. Inside, Margaret stood among scattered papers, her perfectly manicured hands shaking as she fed documents into a portable shredder. "Looking for something?" I asked. She whirled around, face pale. "Vanessa, I was just destroying evidence, like mother, like son. You don't understand. Daniel is planning to betray you. I know. Collins told me everything." The shredder whirred to a stop. In the distance, sirens wailed. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," Margaret whispered. "We were trying to protect the family name." "No, you were trying to protect yourselves, and now you're both scrambling to save your own skins." The sirens grew closer. Margaret's eyes darted to the exit. "You have 2 choices," I said. "Run now, look guilty as hell. Or stay, face the consequences, and maybe, just maybe, I'll tell the DA about those offshore accounts Collins mentioned. You'd help me, after everything?" I smiled, thinking of Daniel's betrayal, of Collins' offer, of all the tangled webs they'd woven. "Let's just say I'm interested in seeing how this plays out." The police cars pulled up outside, lights painting the storage unit walls in red and blue. Margaret straightened her spine, smoothed her hair, ever the proper society woman, even in handcuffs. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying your enemies. It's about giving them enough rope to hang themselves. The charity gala buzzed with Manhattan's elite, all crystal glasses and designer gowns. Margaret's annual fundraiser, the perfect stage for a family implosion. I adjusted my black dress, feeling the USB drive press against my ribs from its hidden pocket. Inside, every piece of evidence I'd gathered: the forged documents, offshore accounts, stolen designs. Everything that would destroy the careful facade the Turner family had built. Darling, Margaret air-kissed my cheeks, her smile brittle. I wasn't sure you'd come, given the circumstances. And miss your big night? Never. I sipped champagne, watching Daniel work the room in his new Collins and Associates partner badge. Family tradition, after all. Her eyes narrowed at my tone. Perhaps we should talk privately. Oh, we will, during your speech. The evening crawled by like broken glass under skin. I endured sympathetic glances from society wives who'd heard about my impending divorce, watched Daniel charm potential investors with practiced ease, noticed how Collins kept Margaret close, his puppet on expensive strings. Then came time for Margaret's annual address. If I could have everyone's attention, she began, tapping her glass, as chair of the Turner Family Foundation. The presentation screen behind her flickered. Instead of her planned charity video, banking records appeared. Wire transfers, forged documents, all larger than life. Margaret's voice faltered. There seems to be a technical... Tell them about the money laundering, Margaret. My voice cut through the shocked murmurs. Or should we ask Daniel about selling stolen designs to Collins? The room went silent. Daniel stepped forward, face ashen. Van, don't... Don't what? Tell the truth? Show everyone who you really are? I turned to the crowd. The Turner Family Foundation is built on fraud. Every donation, every charity project, all of it used to hide illegal transactions. Security! Margaret snapped, but I was already connecting my phone to the speakers. Daniel's recorded conversation with Collins's lawyers played clearly. My mother acted alone. I'll testify. The rest was drowned out by Margaret's scream of rage. She lunged for me, designer heel catching on her gown. We both went down hard. Pain exploded in my temple as it hit the marble floor. Through blurred vision, I saw Collins slipping toward the exit, saw Daniel frozen in place, saw Margaret scrambling for my phone. You ungrateful little... She raised her hand. The slap never came. Instead, federal agents swarmed the room. Margaret Turner, Daniel Turner, you're under arrest for fraud, money laundering, and corporate espionage. I struggled to sit up, head spinning. This wasn't part of my plan. I hadn't called the FBI. I did. Rachel appeared beside me, helping me stand. I've been working with them for months, building a case. You... What? I was never working with Margaret. I was investigating her. For them. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you. The room tilted dangerously. Everything I'd planned, every move I'd calculated, all of it had been manipulated, orchestrated by others. Even my revenge wasn't truly mine. Through the chaos, I caught Daniel's eye as they led him away. For a moment, I saw the man I'd married. Scared, desperate, human. Then his mask slipped back into place, and he mouthed 2 words. I'm sorry. Margaret's voice rose above the commotion. This is your fault. You destroyed this family. No, I said quietly, though she couldn't hear. You did that yourself. The gala dissolved into a circus of police, press, and panicked socialites. I stood in the center, victory turning to ashes in my mouth. I'd wanted justice, but this felt hollow, empty. Rachel touched my arm. The agents need your statement. I pulled away. Were you ever really my friend? Yes, that's why I had to... Save it. My head throbbed where it had hit the floor. I don't need another person telling me their betrayal was for my own good. Outside, camera flashes turned the night into stuttering day. Tomorrow, the Turner family scandal would be everywhere. The company would tank. Lives would be ruined, including mine. I'd gotten everything I wanted and nothing I needed. The truth was out. Justice would be served. And I was more alone than ever. Sometimes winning feels exactly like losing. The courthouse hallway stretched endless and cold. 3 doors down, Daniel testified against Margaret, trading his mother's freedom for a reduced sentence. Through the window, reporters circled like vultures, waiting for the Turner family's final implosion. "Mrs. Turner?" A court clerk appeared. "They're ready." Inside, Margaret sat ramrod straight, designer suit unable to hide her desperation. Our eyes met across the room. For a moment, I saw something crack in her perfect facade. The prosecution calls Vanessa Turner. The witness stand felt like a confession booth. Below, Rachel sat with the FBI team, her betrayal still a fresh wound. Daniel's lawyer watched me like a hawk, knowing his client's deal hinged on my testimony. "Mrs. Turner, please describe your relationship with Margaret Turner." "She was my mother-in-law." My voice echoed. "And my business partner's greatest liability." Margaret's hand twitched toward her pearl necklace, her tell when she was about to strike. "Objection!" Her lawyer stood. "Characterization." "Sustained." The questions continued, each one peeling back layers of deception, wire transfers, forged documents, stolen designs. With each answer, I watched Margaret's composure crumble. Then her lawyer stood for cross-examination. "Mrs. Turner, isn't it true you orchestrated this entire situation? That you set up my client to take the fall for your own financial mismanagement?" "No." "Really?" He held up a familiar document. "This email suggests otherwise. You knew about the offshore accounts months ago, yet said nothing. Why?" "I was gathering evidence." "Or building a trap?" He smiled. "Like the charity Gala ambush? That was quite a show you orchestrated." "Objection." The prosecutor rose, argumentative. "Withdrawn." But the damage was done. Doubt hung in the air like smoke. A commotion erupted outside. Through the courtroom doors, I caught glimpses of Ethan Collins being led away in handcuffs. Margaret stood suddenly. "I need to speak." "Mrs. Turner, please," her lawyer started. "No." She faced me directly. "You want the truth? Here it is. I did everything they say I did. The fraud, the money laundering, all of it. But I did it for this family." The room went silent. "You never understood, did you?" Her voice shook. "The sacrifices required to maintain our position? Daniel did. He knew what was at stake." "What was at stake was our integrity," I said quietly. "Integrity?" She laughed, brittle and sharp. "That doesn't pay for private schools or summer homes or charity galas. It doesn't keep you in Manhattan's elite circles." "Your Honor," her lawyer pleaded. "I protected this family for 30 years. Margaret's composure shattered completely. "I built everything we have. Then you came along with your artistic dreams and common background, and suddenly Daniel forgot everything I taught him." "Mrs. Turner, you're under oath," the judge warned. "You want to know why I did it?" She was crying now, mascara tracking down her cheeks. "Because you were destroying everything I'd built. You made him weak, made him think love was more important than success." "No." I stood, ignoring the bailiff's warning. "I showed him there's more to life than your twisted version of success. That's what really scared you, isn't it?" The truth hung between us like a blade. "I should have stopped it the day he brought you home." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I knew you'd ruin us." "You ruined yourself, Margaret, and you ruined Daniel trying to keep him under your control." She lunged forward suddenly, pearls snapping, scattering across the courtroom floor like broken promises. The bailiff moved to restrain her. "I made him everything he is," she screamed. "No," I said, watching the pearls roll away. "You made him everything he's losing." They led Margaret out, her sobs echoing down the hallway. Through the window, I saw Daniel being escorted to a waiting car, head bowed. Collins was already gone, his empire crumbling. Rachel approached cautiously. "Van, don't." I gathered my things. "We're done here." Outside, the reporters surged forward, questions flying like arrows. I pushed through them, their words washing over me, meaningless as rain. "Sometimes victory tastes like ashes, and revenge feels like watching everything you once loved burn to the ground. But at least the truth was finally free. The penthouse office still smelled of Margaret's perfume. I stood at the window, watching movers cart away the last traces of the Turner family legacy: antique furniture, oil paintings, that pretentious brass nameplate she'd insisted on. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Collins pleads guilty in design theft case. Below it, another. Margaret Turner sentenced to 8 years. The elevator dinged. High heels clicked across marble. "This is private property," I said without turning. "I brought your sketchbook," Rachel's voice uncertain. "The one they used as evidence. Thought you might want it back." I faced her. She looked smaller somehow, less certain than the FBI agent who'd testified against my family. The leather-bound book in her hands felt like another lifetime. "Keep it." I turned back to the window. "Consider it payment for services rendered." "Van, please, let me explain." "Explain what? How you played both sides? How you watched me fall apart while building your case?" My reflection smiled, sharp as broken glass. "Or how about explaining why you're really here?" She set the sketchbook on Margaret's old desk. "They're offering you immunity, full cooperation in exchange for testimony against Collins' remaining partners." "Of course they are." I traced a finger along the window's edge. "They need someone to finish the story, the wronged wife who helped bring down an empire of corruption." "It's a good deal." "It's another cage." I picked up the sketchbook, felt its familiar weight. "You know what Margaret told me right before they took her away? She said I'd become exactly what she always wanted Daniel to be." Rachel stepped closer. "You're nothing like her." "No?" I opened the book to my newest designs, all sharp angles and broken pieces, beauty forged from destruction. "I destroyed my husband's career, ruined his mother, took everything they built and burned it down. Tell me how that's different." "You exposed the truth. They brought this on themselves." "Maybe." I set the book down. "Or maybe revenge just teaches us to become what we hate." The movers finished, leaving us alone in the empty office. Below, Manhattan continued its endless dance of ambition and betrayal. "The immunity deal expires tonight," Rachel said softly. I picked up my bag, the only thing here that was truly mine. "Then I guess you wasted a trip. What will you do?" Inside my bag, beneath corporate documents and legal papers, lay a one-way ticket to Milan. A new studio space waited there, far from Manhattan's glittering towers and poisoned relationships. I'm going to do what I should have done from the start. I headed for the elevator. Create something new. They'll come after you eventually. The investigators, the journalists. Let them. The doors opened with a soft chime. "They can have the story. I'm keeping the truth." "Which is?" I thought of Margaret in her prison uniform, of Daniel in his halfway house, of all the pieces of myself I'd sacrificed at the altar of retribution. "That revenge doesn't set you free. It just gives you a different kind of chains." The elevator began to close. Rachel stepped forward suddenly, slipping an envelope through the gap. "What's this?" "The one piece of evidence I never turned in." Her voice caught. "Sometimes the best revenge is proving them wrong about who you really are." Inside the envelope, I found a letter in Daniel's handwriting, dated before everything fell apart. A confession, an apology, and a warning about his mother's plans. Sent to Rachel, but never delivered. The truth I'd needed, arriving too late to matter. Or maybe arriving exactly when it should. I let the letter fall, watching it disappear into Manhattan's gathering dusk. Sometimes the only way forward is to leave every answer behind. The elevator reached the lobby. Through the glass doors, I could see reporters waiting, hungry for one last sound bite about the Turner family tragedy. I straightened my spine, felt the ticket to Milan press against my heart. They wanted a story about revenge and ruin, about a woman who'd burned down an empire. Instead, they'd get something else. Empty hands, unanswered questions, and the sight of me walking away, taking my truth with me. Sometimes that's the greatest victory of all.